The Wyoming Republican Party passed a no-confidence vote against Governor Mark Gordon. Evanston's economy could boom should Salt Lake City get the bid for the 2034 Winter Olympics. And a couple in Buffalo unearthed a petrified forest. We'll take a look at these stories and more today from Wyoming's largest news organization. I'm Wendy Corr for Cowboy State Daily. The Wyoming Republican Party passed a vote of no confidence on Saturday against Governor Mark Gordon for his recent comments at Harvard University. The motion for a no confidence vote originated from the Park County Republican Party, which passed it at its county meeting Thursday and says Gordon boldly turned his back on Wyoming Republicans. A vote of no confidence isn't as strong as a censure, but it is an official statement about how the party views what Gordon said during his Harvard visit, that Wyoming is committed to becoming carbon negative and that the climate is warming. Vince Venata, the Park County committeeman who read the statement on behalf of the county party Saturday, said unlike the firm condemnation that is a censure, a no-confidence resolution just states that a majority of the party disagrees with Gordon's position. Any event that can drive $5 billion in economic activity in 16 days is worth preparing for. Utah is in the running to host the 2034 Winter Olympics, and so far, Salt Lake City is the only city on the list. And Cowboy State Daily's John Thompson reports that Evanston, just across the border from the Salt Lake City metropolitan area, is ready to reap the economic benefits that they experienced when the Olympics were held there in 2002. From lodging to restaurants to the small Evanston airport, businesses are hopeful for a 16-day windfall in 2034, just like they saw 20 years ago.
The Evanston airport, they were super busy. A lot more big jets than they normally have. They sold like 35 times the amount of fuel in February of 2002 as they do on a normal month.
Utah officials are confident they'll receive the bid since many of the venues for Olympic sporting events are already in place from when Salt Lake City hosted the 2002 Winter Games. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission is coming to Kemmerer on Tuesday. Representatives of the federal agency charged with ensuring nuclear plants in the U.S. are safe will explain how their particular process will unfold, as well as how the community can engage with the agency. Members of the public will have an opportunity during the federal regulatory review process to explore all of their safety concerns about the plant. TerraPower isn't expected to file its application for the proposed plant in Kemmerer until the end of March next year. I'll be back with more news right after this.
No one should go hungry on Thanksgiving, and yet hundreds of men, women, and children from our community are homeless and hurting this holiday season. Yet you can provide hope. Just $2.58 provides a hot meal and life-changing services at the Wyoming Rescue Mission, like safe, welcoming shelter, support, and long-term recovery to help them get back on their feet. Learn more and give online at wyomission.org. That's wyomission.org.
Well, getting drunk on fermented grain has killed dozens of grizzly bears along a treacherous stretch of rail line near Glacier National Park in Montana. Since 1980, 63 bears have been killed along that stretch of rail line. Outdoors reporter Mark Hines explains that grain spilled from rail cars along the tracks can be a tempting treat for bears, especially when the grain becomes wet from snow and rain.
Grain will spill off these grain cars on these trains, and it will ferment on the ground, and the grizzlies will come along and eat it and essentially get drunk. And so you have drunk bears on or near railroad tracks, and unfortunately that ends badly for the bears.
Grizzlies here in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem haven't had too many run-ins with trains, but vehicles have taken a toll on bears in the region. So far this year, 6 grizzlies have been killed by vehicles, including one each on the North Fork and South Fork highways near Cody. And Jeannie Peterson and her husband Robert weren't expecting any tree problems when they started building an RV park outside Buffalo. But Cowboy State Daily's Andrew Rossi reports that there actually were some huge trees. They just weren't growing up from the ground. The couple instead found a 60-million-year-old petrified forest of some of the most giant trees that ever lived in Wyoming.
They found one that had a 35-foot-long intact trunk, and there's still more of it diving into the ground. So they've had to redo their whole plans to accommodate this RV campground because they want to preserve the tree and display it there.
Construction on the RV campground continues, and Peterson said the digging is almost, but not entirely done. That means there could be more 60-million-year-old meta-sequoias waiting to be unearthed. And that's today's news. Get your free digital subscription to Wyoming's only statewide newspaper by hitting the subscribe button on CowboyStateDaily.com. I'm Wendy Corr for Cowboy State Daily.